Do you think that well, you talked about PSYOPs. Do you think there has been any sort of purposeful PSYOPs sparked through hip hop?
Hell of them. Hey, I love hip hop. I sent you my soundtrack, my album. You know, I'm working on one called Save Yourself. But essentially, one could look at hip hop as a PSYOP. Our PSYOP and theirs. Right? It's our PSYOP when I talked about, you know, the gods infiltrating hip hop, you know, peace God. Then it became, what's up, nigga? You feel me? That was a switch of language, right? What does that do? We would use the words brother more in rap lyrics, right? And then we started using the word nigga more. And each time you see these shifts in vocabulary, right? And the words that are more frequent that we listening to, what does that do? Hip hop is a media that controls the way we feel and see about ourselves and each other, right? So if hip hop is one of the most influential genres in the world.
It is the most influential genre.
You think you gonna let that go without having control in it? They never done that with any media genre ever. When the TV came on, the government used it. When hip hop came on, the government used it. How do we fill prisons? How do we get black people to have an attitude that demoralizes them? How do we get them to talk about sister from Lauryn Hill eras to saying bitch and going to Sexy Red?
Right.
You can't tell me hip hop not a PSYOP when we go from Lauryn Hill to Sexy Red. That's the PSYOP. How do we get a generation from going from Lauryn Hill to, and I ain't saying Lauryn Hill was perfect, right? But it was a much more morality and ethics and values that we were spreading in the music.
Right.
The music today is death music. It's fast consumption. It's fast death. How do we just, like, we turn into crackheads in music?
Well, we've also desensitized the consumer base so much to, like, you know, I talk about this all the time, like the YouTube documentary culture, when it comes to like what's going on in Jacksonville or Chicago, it's turned like a lot of these guys whose music isn't really good into like just main characters in people's TV shows on YouTube. So when they die, Julio gets killed in Florida, you know, and you know, Young and Ace replies the next day with a freestyle, and then you go through these comments, and it's just so ugly because it's like these are like real human beings we're talking about. Yeah. It's not even so much about the music as much as it's about like, with a lot of guys, obviously, about the drama, about the characters in this, like, you know, this fucking show that's playing out in front of everybody's eyes on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, the music is weaponized completely now from when, you know, there was a switch to 808s, right? Everything has been weaponized to get us to think fast, to get our heart rate moving faster, to have us having anxiety towards each other. When we was listening to crunk music back in the day and everybody was getting turned up, you feel me? What always happened? A fight break out. Somebody getting shot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There
were certain songs I remember DJing, you couldn't play like, what was the little scrappy record? No Problem. You couldn't play No Problem at the club.
As soon as that come on,
you couldn't play Nuck if you buck.
You feel me? I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
If you ain't got numbers by now,
why you playing Nuck?
Like,
I remember the promoter be like, yo, why you play that shit? You started 3 fights. What the fuck?
Right. And the reality of it is it's not even just that the artists themselves was intentional about it, because even when you go to like Yin Yang Twins,
and I love that music.
Yin Yang Twins wanted to have more conscious music at first, but what the labels and the culture gravitated towards was that low music. Right. You feel me? Low frequency. So they said, let's just, if this is the product, instead of me trying to make a 5-star meal, let me make McDonald's and sell 1 million of these burgers. Right. And so a lot of rappers right now are just like McDonald's.
I feel like hip hop is more McDonald's than it. I mean, that's the thing, is like I said earlier, it's like back in the day we had like the Commons and the Most Defs and like even like a guy like Immortal Technique who was headlining huge festivals. And Immortal Technique, I learned so much about the world from Immortal Technique.
See, again, you learn worldviews and perspectives. You learn about different regions and things.
But I don't even know who that is in 2025.
It's not too many.
You know, like I think Killer Mike is a great resource. But
shout out to Killer Mike. Shout out to La Russell.
La Russell's amazing, by the way.
Shout out to my brother Simba, Bashir Ampool. Amazing, yeah. You feel me? Jack Heller, that's my little brother. You know what I'm saying? I think it's some really dope artists.
No, there's amazing hip hop.
My brother AJ McQueen, shout out to him. You feel me? It's some dope people, and I think what needs to shift is like we gotta realize the power is in the independent.
Yeah.
You feel me? And how do you intentionally look at those voices and saying, because I know they're not gonna be represented, I'm going to push them, right? And I mean that as people like us that have media.
For sure.
Right? You know
what?
All
those people you just mentioned are my friends and been on the show many times. And
everybody needs to do that believes in that at least.
For sure.
Right? And when you do it and they hot, everybody else go jump on it anyway.
Yeah.
You feel me?
No, I see it all the time. I tell these guys, I'm like, yo, like, hey, how do I get on so-and-so show? I'm like, man, you just keep going because these fools are only going to tap in with you when it's beneficial to them.
100%. You just got to keep moving around. It's a fight. It's a war. It's like, who gets to control the frequency? You know what I'm saying? And I ain't saying like you got to make all conscious music. You feel me? But be conscious when you make your music.
Or be conscious when you speak.
100%. Because if you get a platform, you can represent something higher.
Yeah, if you're on an interview.
Hey, look at Larry Jones. He's the most player. How do you even put him in a category?
He's his own thing, but he's very like Bay Area player fly shit. But if you listen to him speak, he's pushing organic foods.
You feel me?
He's pushing exercise.
100%. That's the example of putting the candy in a medicine jar. Yes. You feel me? You get individuals like him, and you realize like when you get close, the lifestyle that he pushing is really a healthy lifestyle.
100%.
You feel me? But how do you do it and stay cool? You feel me?
Yeah, he's kind of mastered that.
Yeah, and I've been seeing him forever, growing up in the Bay.
Yeah, no,
you feel me?
He's OG.
But I think he has a really good blueprint. Right?
I agree.
How do you make music that is still, I think, super cultural in the way where it's cool as hell, it's player, but it is becoming a Trojan horse because when you get close up, you realize like, oh, he actually pushing something positive,
pushing independence.
Even somebody like Sauce Walker. Yeah. Sauce Walker, he go throw that H-Town music, you feel me? He go put it in a certain way, but he go always throw some candy in a medicine jar.
For sure.
And then when he speak, you go hear.
And then when you see him do an interview, you're like, oh shit.
And who's that influencing the most? His constituency, the people that listen to him, the people that normally they might not get it from no 19 Keys.
Right.
But when they heard Sauce throw the sauce on it, you know what? I think bro was right. And I think rappers got to stop being afraid of allowing like your audience to see that side of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of, they feel like they're going to lose their audience, but your audience has been exposed to a lot.
Well, also a lot of artists, like, quite frankly, don't have the mind that Sauce Walker has or the mind that,
for sure.
You know, but it's like,
but the ones that do.
But the ones that do, it's like you're almost like full of shit, low key on a large scale. It's like every time you're on camera, you do a podcast, you do an interview, you don't really.
Well, they think they got to be this persona. It's like this old school. You seen the interview with Richie Rich and Tupac. He got on the leather vest.
Yes.
And I feel like so many people took that interview as this is the persona I need to be in interviews. Pretty not paying attention to him, smoking, trying to figure out when this shit is over with.
Yeah.
You feel me? And
it's like, don't even come.
Yeah, they throwing a persona like that's not you. Like you telling me as a man you can't have a conversation with another man.
So I had
because you're an artist.
I had a famous moment on the pod. I'm not going to say artist name. People can put it together all they want. But so this guy's label, I'm friends with one of the girls who runs the label, and she was like, yo, so-and-so is really, really wanting to go on Joe Rogan. He's like into politics, he's into aliens, he's into all this crazy shit. And I was like, him? Like him?
Yeah.
So he comes on my show, popped a perk right before the interview started, was an hour late. I mean, just was like the absolute worst person ever. Was not trying to have a discussion whatsoever. I'm trying to engage him, and we ended up having this big famous moment. He leaves, and I shit you not, like a month ago, I get the same call from the label saying, "Hey, I know y'all's interview didn't go that great, but do you have any ins on Joe Rogan?" And I'm like, who the fuck do I look like?
That's wild. That's wild.
I'm like, I'm not, is this guy capable? Like, you know, like if you knew this dude, like I like his music a lot, but it's like if you just knew him surface level based on like how he presents himself on camera, you'd be like, there's no way. Like this guy even has that sort of, but apparently he does, you know? And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like.
I think that's the thing. Like we look at, I think this cultural persona that we have when we represent ourselves in front of the culture and our people, that it got to be like this low level version of ourselves. This is who we need to be to play this character. But then when you yourself, when you go on a Joe Rogan, let's say, if you will, or high level conversations, it allows you to demonstrate a different side because you know you're speaking in front of a different audience.
Right.
And what you got to demonstrate and realize, it's a global audience always, right? There's no borders on a podcast. right? So you always had that opportunity to gain a new fan base if they hear something new from you that they like.
For sure.
If you speaking on a different subject, I had ASAP Ferg on the show. And so many people was like, bro,
his new album was
seen
super
that
dope.
Side of ASAP Ferg before. So hella people was commenting, I'm about to go watch his album. I mean, listen to his album.
Yeah, and his new album, he was super vulnerable.
Right.
It was different.
But if you don't get the curation, because I think this is what a lot of artists can't do. They can't curate that side of themselves to make space for their fan base. Right? And some people, they switch up so much on their fan base, they leave them behind. You have to take them on a journey with you. Right? So I look at a lot of them are just not trained. You know what I mean? They're not PR trained, they're not brand trained, they don't know how to market, they don't understand these things. They think in this binary, well, on this one, on hip-hop shit, I'm gonna act like an ignorant nigga. On this one, I'm gonna act a little more intelligent, things of that nature.
Or they're like chasing like...
Be yourself on all of them.
In the same way that platforms can farm clip, or clip farm rather, the artists will do that too. They know what they're doing. They're trying to...
But they be creating cheap moments that... At the end of the day, you become that moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then people forget you for anything else because they got so much information they process and they can only remember you from the moment that stood out.
Yeah. So, and it's not even the music most of the time.
And then if your music not connected to the moment you created, how is that going to create a funnel for me to listen to your music because there's no mood? If I think of, you think about any artist, right? I'm trying to think of somebody. But let's just, any artist, for example, that create a moment in time, like the one you had with the person you talking about, right? If their music is connected to that type of activity, when they think about the person, that's cool. But if they make any music outside of that, then they got a disconnection. Now they don't have ability to grow. Right. So now you make some music, but that's not how I feel about you. Right? So now I don't want to listen to you talk about nothing else. I only want you to be stuck in this one little pigeonhole. When I want to feel like that, I will go to you. But when the world shifts and people don't feel like that no more, now you don't have a platform. So everybody should be making a platform robust enough to where they have the ability to shift and their audience will follow them along through it. Yeah,
and I think too, it's like unfortunate, man, like there's not really any like real dope big homies that a lot of these rappers have.
Oh man.
And you know, even if you think about like,
well, they chasing relevance too. That's why.
Exactly, right. But even if you think about like we got to go to Utah and hang out with YoungBoy for a day, and like I was like, dude, this guy was the biggest performing artist on Atlantic Records. For like, I mean, this guy's a prolific artist in terms of like the numbers he's put up, right? And even just the influence on kids he has, right? But you could just tell like that dude like wears so much. Of that. Yeah. And like I cannot imagine like anybody involved with Atlantic Records like try to step in and be like, just try to help them. Yeah. On like a human basis as opposed to like, hey, you have another album to turn in. Hey, by the way, if you go to jail, it's probably helpful. As long as you don't go away too long, it's a little helpful because it builds this allure. And now we get the Free YoungBoy campaign. The same thing happened with Wayne back in the day. You know, when Wayne got locked up, it's like, they don't give a fuck. And then what happens is, you know, you might, you know, I think YoungBoy's a good dude, man. We spent some time with him and he was super cool. But like at the end of the day, like you can't be who he is and deal with, you know, the addiction and the family. He's got a lot of kids and all the trauma that he's dealt with over the years and not be like fucking affected by it and not wear it. And it's like, who's there? Right. Who's there to, you know, there's nobody there to like help him through that for real.
Yeah, I mean, the label not gonna care. You a product to the label, it's just business.
Like now the NFL has CTE protocol. Yeah. They had to, you know? It's like, where's that for hip hop? Where's that for artists? You know, like it's just, that doesn't exist.
That goes to your managers and the people around you.
That's what I'm saying. You're quote unquote like big homies, your team.
They wanted us to come up there. We couldn't make it happen. But that was me seeing them having foresight to saying this thing is about to go too left. How do we get somebody that possibly some of these rappers or people could listen to? Right. And that's the tough part. There's a lot of people we supposed to have on the platform. A lot of times I think they're afraid to have a conversation sometimes.
For sure.
And for me, I just have a conversation with you. Like whatever we gonna talk about, it's easy for me to make it high level, but it's gonna be something beneficial to where you gain a new audience.
That was my whole thing with him was like, just I'm gonna go there and I'm not gonna treat him like an alien. Yeah. Because I feel like everybody who would go talk to him like treats him like a fucking alien. Yeah. I'm like, yo, let's just shoot the shit and like.
Well, you need to also, some people need somebody to say some shit that you don't want to hear. Like I met with Kodak Black And I remember we was at Jalen's birthday party. And
how recently?
This was a few months ago.
Okay, yeah. He probably, yeah.
And when I first met up with him, you know what I mean? It was all love and respect, of course. The whole time, he was just like, bro, I follow you. He was calling his homie to show him, like, we was just talking about you. We always listening to you. And at the time, I felt like when he was on stage performing, he wasn't in his right mind. And it was hard to watch. And I'm like, man, I don't feel right just watching the performance happen, right? And then later on, something happened to him, and then we kind of treated this like entertainment.
Yes.
So that's why I had to pull him to the side and, you know, get his ear real quick to speak to him. And I feel like we probably not having enough of those kind of moments. You feel me? Like, you can't treat somebody's downfall as entertainment. You feel me? Otherwise, I look at it as you almost contributing to it.
I own a nightclub in Scottsdale, and my boy had reached out, who I guess is working with Kodak now. And he's like, yo, man, Kodak's gonna be in Phoenix. You know, let's book him at the club. And I was like, bro, I'm not trying to pay for this. Like, he's obviously not doing well. Like, I'm not trying to bring him to a club and feed him alcohol and, like, you know, he's Kodak Black, but it's like, and the same person was like, nah, bro, you know, Kodak's on Kodak. He's good. You know, I'm like, nah, I get it. But to me, it's like, they shouldn't, I feel like nobody should be making money off of him right now, as opposed
Kodak
to trying.
Is extremely talented.
He's an alien.
It's kind of like watching, and some people don't like this analogy, watching DMX. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's extremely talented, but I just don't like the way he poisoning himself, and I feel like he got a very high level of consciousness and awareness, just knowing the type of things he be tapped into, but that environment is stronger than nature.
What's sad too is when you're someone who's that famous, that influential, that and have that much money, no matter what happens, you will always find a group to enable you.
Oh, 100%.
Because you could have a group of great people around you that tell you what you need to hear and try to hold you accountable. It doesn't matter. You're going to move over to these people who ain't tripping because they're just going to hit a quick lick off you. And then they're dependent on you. So
and they don't know how to pull you to a side because they're afraid that you go cut them off.
Yes.
So their enabling is also their dependency, and it's unfortunate because it becomes a cycle that has a downfall, and then they go have to cut you off eventually anyway.
Yeah.
So you would rather be the person that says something, right, before it happened. So at least when that cycle comes to an end, they remember you for being the only person that was telling them right. I'm usually that person in people's lives. I'm going to tell you what's real. You ain't going to like it.
Right.
But I grew up with 6 brothers, and, you know, we speak to each other as men, like it or not. And so what ended up happening is you might dislike me for the moment, but when you finally got some time to goddamn listen and you hit that bottom, you just go come back and be like, you know what, I apologize, you was right. Right? And so I'd rather be that person that forewarned you and let you be mad at me while you going through it. And we can sever our ties, our connection, whatever it is, because I just can't stay in your radius and let you disrespect yourself. And it's disrespectful to me to not goddamn tell you the right thing.
That's real, man.